It's my feel-good breakfast show.
This is your Feel Good Breakfast Show Espresso right here on SABC3. Thanks for joining us at the start of a brand new day. Now let's talk about coughing. It's a basic defense mechanism that helps to clear bacteria and viruses from the respiratory system. Now more often than not, coughing is not serious and should clear up in about a week or two. And in some cases, may be a sign of a more serious illness. And that's why right now we're chatting to Dr. Fezlim Kize, who joins us via video call to talk to us about the causes of a cough and how we can then better treat it. Dr. Fez, good to see you. How are you, man?
I'm good, sir. How are you guys doing?
Very well, thank you.
We are good. Listen, this morning, as I came to work with the driver, I coughed, and he gave me like this
Nasty look.
Is that you? Is that Rona?
What are you doing?
Like, what is it? What's life even? Like, you can't even cough like in peace anymore. But let's start right at the beginning, Fez. Let's start with what exactly is a cough?
Well, I think Kat explained it quite well. It's a defense mechanism that your body has. So if you imagine that your entire airway needs to be clear of kind of large particles to make sure that your body functions well, the cough is that kind of reflex where you try and make sure that nothing's there. So generally when we're talking coughs, your airways, so we're talking from your trachea, so your air pipe all the way down to the smaller airways, there are little kind of receptors to make sure that once you pick up any sort of big particle, big dust, a buildup of mucus, it actually expels it. So it's a very violent movement to make sure that everything comes out.
Now, looking at the more acute cases of a cough, what exactly are the more common causes?
Well, in this day and age, this era that we live in, everybody is very hyper-aware, and we talk about kind of the coronavirus and how that's something that's strongly associated with cough. But when we talk about coughs, generally we like to kind of simplify it to dry and wet coughs, and they both indicate different things. So when we're talking dry coughs, that generally means that there isn't necessarily a lot of production of mucus or any sort of substances that are in the chest, but your airways are very sensitive. And that's usually, especially over a long period of time, because your body is trying to defend against something. So there's an increase in the awareness in your defense system, and it makes everything more sensitive. And then when we talk wet coughs, that's when we start talking a higher likelihood of there being an infection. And you can kind of break that down into things that are non-infectious. So people who have sinus issues, especially with this change of season, you have mucus buildup, you have that post-nasal drip, because that's how your mucus actually drains. And then, especially when you're sleeping, because your esophagus, so your food pipe, and your airway are so close to each other, sometimes there's actually a slippage of that mucus into the airway, and you can cough. And sometimes if you can kind of spit it out and look at it on a tissue, you'll see that it's generally clear, indicating no infection. And when you start talking about colors, that's when you're saying, okay, maybe there is an infection there, maybe your sinuses have become infected with the bacteria on top of that, or even that you might be having a pneumonia. And that's when you start having your weird and wonderful colors, your greens, your yellows.
Sure, cough is quite complex.
It is next level. Would you then say, doctor, that a cough is contagious?
So a cough in and of itself is not, because as I said, it could be something that's just happening to you. So generally when it comes to cough, you have to look at it holistically. Is it just a cough? Is there fever as well? Is there kind of the cough with the sputum, so the wetness, and then the change in the color? That's when you start saying, okay, you have an illness, and then that illness is contagious. Just like a coronavirus has a cough as one of the symptoms, but the illness itself is what's contagious, not necessarily the cough.
Now, what is the best way to treat a cough then, Dr. Fez?
Well, now we start going into what is causing it. So when we look at it as kind of the wet coughs and we're differentiating it, if you have somebody who's like very prone to sinuses, we start taking you down the route of what we treat you for sinuses, antihistamines, things like neti pots to make sure that you're clearing everything out. If it's as a result of kind of an infection such as the common cold or influenza, especially with influenza, that one tends to be dry. It starts quite quickly, and there we can give you symptom control. Things like cough syrups, those have specific kind of medication and chemicals that dumb that down, so you don't have that constant urge to cough. But it all kind of has to be part of this profile of whatever the illness or the potential aggravator is.
At what point would you then say, this is the time that we need to go and see a doctor? What point do we say, listen, I need to go to Dr. Fez now because this is getting pretty bad, like, I need to see you?
You need to look at it as a whole. If you're having a cough every so often, it could be that the air is dry, especially in the winter times, and that's why you're continuously clearing it out. I'm in Johannesburg. I know this is something that occurs quite often. It's when you start attaching things. Okay, I have a cough plus fever or plus this headache. Those pluses start giving me a profile as to something potentially happening. But if you do have a cough in and of itself and it's been lasting for longer than even 2 weeks, and it's something that's now very irritating to you, especially at the workplace, especially when you're traveling around and in these times, you can come to see me. There's a number of sites that actually have doctors who are online, and you can send a message there and just ask, and they'll ask you the relevant questions to see if you need to actually physically come in and see someone. So it's always a good indicator. It's a red flag, but it isn't by itself something that then warrants you to go in and see somebody.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Mkhize. As always, a pleasure to have your time and expertise. Thank you, man.
Thank you so much, guys, and I always love having or being on the show. Maybe one day I'll be able to fly down and be there physically.
We certainly look forward to that day.
As long as you don't have a cough, then you can come.
Just a cough by itself, maybe once or twice in a week is okay. So I feel like I'd be safe.
Of course, this was all brought to you by DILINCT Junior, a cough syrup specifically formulated for alleviating coughs in young children. DILINCT Junior is sugar and alcohol free and is recommended for children 2 years and older.